Hi there, Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video we are going to take a look at painting Jain Zar from the Aeldari faction in Warhammer 40,000. We're going to continue our look and we're going to go back a phase as we had worked on the helmet previously, and we're going to work on that rune that is on her forehead. For that, I'm going to get started with some titanium white, some transparent yellow iron oxide, and some quinacridone red. These are all from Golden's High Flow line. These are water-based acrylics. I'm going to use 4 white, 1 yellow, and 1 quinacridone red. Or maybe 2. I think it's 2. I want this to be somewhat saturated in the red side of things. And we're also going to use some fluid and matte medium, just a drop, just to basically knock a bit of the shine out. As you will find, anybody who has been playing with these colors, they do finish with a bit of a gloss, and that is fine. It's just, some people don't prefer that, but I think eventually when we are finish this model, when it's all said and done, we are going to give this model a varnish of matte just to knock all the shine out of it. It's not really apparent on the camera here, but basically there is some shininess. The lights kind of blow that out actually. So after the rune has been painted, we're going to add 2 more drops of quinacridone red to this mixture, giving us a much deeper saturated red tone. And it takes on more of a red rather than a magenta, because the yellow iron oxide basically obviously adds a bit more yellow to it, and yellow and magenta make red in this fashion. So with this, we're basically going to deliberately apply this in the undersides of the rune, basically representing a bit more of a shadow. I'm also going to use this color along the perimeter or the outer edge of the rune, so that it's not simply just the base tone of the helmet itself, which is that slight blue. As we work our way around, we're trying to be very, very careful as we do so. And so again, this is a time where you're going to need to go into steady hand mode, as it were. But otherwise, with this rune here, we're fairly happy with it. And once we're all said and done, we're going to continue on with quinacridone magenta. This is regular opaque high flow paint. This is not a transparency, although, when thinned out quite a bit, it is very transparent. With this tone, I'm going to deliberately apply this under the outer perimeter of the rune itself. And initially I started off doing it on the undersides of the rune, but then ended up just kind of doing the whole perimeter, as it were, because basically when this sits on top of the lighter blue, it does deepen up the tone and becomes actually quite darker. It also takes on a bit of a more of a purple hue, which is kind of fun. But again, because it deepens up the color, and what we're doing is we're establishing a shadow around the rune, and I also lay it on top of the base as well. I take our previous mixture of the white, yellow, and red and slap a little bit onto the palette. Just with the dampness of the brush, I thin it down and then just reestablish the highlights around where the gemstone is on the forehead. And I want the color to kind of taper off, getting brighter towards the gemstone as opposed to the high point of the rune. We're going to take some titanium white and some quinacridone red. I'm going to do about 2 drops of white with 1 drop of red. This is going to serve as our highlight color for the lower portion of the rune. So as we build up brightness towards the gemstone, again, we are going to be very, very careful. This is on the main face of the rune itself. And as long as we're being very, very careful here, I also do a little bit of highlight on that upper triangular portion of the rune as well, just to add a bit of more visual interest and, not trying to push the color too deep on the upper portions of there. And again, really with this kind of self-imposed restriction of which colors I'm using and how much of color I'm using, is actually a very fun exercise as far as getting used to color mixtures and things of that nature. I also add just a drop of titanium white to that previous mixture, and again, this is the next highlight color. Basically, it's just along the portion of the rune above the gemstone and at the cross beams of the gemstone as well. And then there's 2 little doodads that come off from the gemstone. I also add a little highlight there as well. And of course, the top of the triangle, I also add a tiny little dot just as a little spot highlight on the very top of that, just to kind of, again, knock out that intense magenta that's at the top of it. Next, I'm going to come in with some titanium white. just going to slap this onto the palette. Just the dampness of the brush really doesn't need thinning. Again, these high flow paints flow more like an ink than they do actually more like a paint. They're really great within the airbrush, but you obviously can hand paint them as well. And as you can see, as I've been demonstrating through all these videos here, we're using just basically these 3 colors essentially to paint this entire model. And with that highlight established there, you can see, again, the rune is starting to look pretty done. I'm going to come in with some phthalo blue-green shade. This is the blue that we've been using all the time here, as you may or may not realize. Some of you might be just tuning in, I don't know. But I'm going to use this here, undiluted. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I initially was doing with the quinacridone magenta, is basically lay this in like a shadow. And I'm only concentrating on the upper portion of the rune, so where that triangular bit is, and then bring that down. And again, it gives us our deeper tones, but I also use this color. I take some of that magenta and mix it into the blue and creates a nice darker tone. And I use that to also do a bit more shading in the mouth and the eyes, and her neck and the little hoses that are running towards her head. I also deepen those tones up, and in fact I really like that without having to add black to the color, simply just adding the basic on the color wheel, the opposite color, and having some fun that way. Big thank you to all my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below. There are varying tiers of support, and just click whatever makes sense to you. And a huge thank you to everybody who does. Take care of those brushes, and they will take care of you.